Mama Jane here. I know I normally talk about comic books and toys and stuff, but today we're going to talk about one of the other great loves in my life, Dungeons and Dragons. The first time I ever played Dungeons & Dragons, I was about 7. I played with my brother and some of his friends because the boy that was hosting it had a big little 7-year-old crush on me. It was really cute. The first time I ever played, I played an elf and I got killed almost immediately by a trapped chest, I think. I think an arrow shot out of the chest when I tried to open it. So I was about 7 then. I didn't play again for another 17 years. So I recently got back into Dungeons & Dragons with a couple of friends of mine, and I am just absolutely taken by it. It is so much fun, and everyone gets into it, and it's silly, and it's exciting, and it's just a really great way to spend an afternoon. Because I am the way that I am, I have no issue telling people that I'm going to play Dungeons & Dragons. When my workmates ask me what I'm doing on the weekend, I tell them I'm planning on spending all Saturday afternoon playing Dungeons & Dragons with some friends. And Dungeons & Dragons being the kind of game that it is, you get... a lot of people don't understand what it is, and you get a lot of really strange questions. So here are my 5 top questions that Dungeons & Dragons players hate being asked. Dungeons & Dragons, is that the game with elves and magic and stuff? It's not the question here, it's usually the tone that comes along with it. And the answer is, yes, it is that awesome game with elves and dragons and magic and dwarves and all sorts of things like that. A lot of people, fantasy is still looked at a bit with a lot of people, but it's dragontive storytelling, and it can be absolutely hilarious to have a dragonborn paladin charging through a room attempting to kill a giant mouse, and you know, it can be anything you want, and it's awesome. That's something that actually happened in one of our games. So, do you guys pretend to be dragons? No, we don't pretend to be dragons. We pretend to kill dragons, occasionally converse with, team up with, stuff like that. Do you dress up to play? No, most Dungeons & Dragons players do not dress up to play. You don't dress up as the Monopoly man every time you play Monopoly. It's often just a group of people sitting around a table in the afternoon. It's not a big event every time you play. In saying that, there are some people that do dress up. People will often dress up for special occasions. If it's a birthday or a big event that they're playing, sometimes people will dress up in costume. But as a general rule, no, you don't dress up to play Dungeons & Dragons. Aren't most Dungeons & Dragons players weird antisocial losers? First off, rude. And secondly, no, they are very normal people. Dungeons & Dragons actually laid the foundation for a lot of video games. Without Dungeons & Dragons, there'd be no Skyrim, there'd be no Fallout. Dungeons & Dragons has all of the stats that those games have and set it up. It really is a bunch of people just sitting around playing a game. It's the same as people sitting around guys sitting around playing poker, people sitting around playing Monopoly, or anything like that. It's people come from all walks of life, and all I've got to say is Vin Diesel is an avid Dungeons & Dragons player. There's a whole YouTube channel devoted to watching Vin Diesel and his friends play Dungeons & Dragons. So next time you think a D&D player is a weird antisocial loser, just remember, Vin Diesel thinks it's cool. You have a dungeon master, so it's like a sex thing? Obviously, I'm not even going to dignify that question with a response. So, there are my 5 questions that Dungeons & Dragons players hate being asked. I strongly encourage people to try at some point to play a game of Dungeons & Dragons. There are websites like Roll20, there's a Facebook group for Dungeons & Dragons in your local area, and things like that. I recently had my 26th birthday, and I invited a bunch of my friends over to play Dungeons & Dragons. Nobody had ever played before. I didn't think that anyone would enjoy it, but I thought they would do it for my birthday, and one of the guys has me organising another session, and the other 2 really enjoyed it, even though it's definitely not the kind of thing they'd normally be into. It's a great game when everybody's participating and being a bit creative. It's a lot of fun. You can play some really serious games, or you can play some fun, silly games where you don't really take it too seriously. But to be honest, most Dungeons & Dragons sessions are a bunch of people sitting around having a few drinks and a laugh. So I'd strongly encourage you to play, even if it's something you've never thought about doing before. I will catch you guys next time. Bye! Lose it. I messed up. Dungeons and Dragons. It's really hard for me.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons.